This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Our underground network is standing by at the drop zone to distribute.
The transmission is being jammed. Looks like the Empire came out to welcome us.
Attention, Rebel Convoy. This system is under Imperial control. Stand down or be destroyed.
What a surprise. It's Star Wars Sabers and Scoundrels.
Starships.
Carabast.
Yeah.
Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, a Scoundrels Special Edition.
Greetings, Scoundrels, and welcome to episode 12 and a half of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, a Scoundrels Special Edition. This episode, we take a look at the second episode of Rebels Season 3, Holocrons of Fate. Joining me, as always, is Darth Taxis. How you doing this evening, Taxis?
Oh, pretty worn out. Big weekend. Lady Taxis' birthday was this weekend. It was a big blowout. And,
well, happy birthday to the Lady Taxis.
Thank you. She had a pretty good one. And then my fantasy league's not doing too good in Hut Ball right now. So, yeah.
Well, you're not alone, my friend.
Yeah. Well, now, you may remember, Dennis, last week that we called our Rebel segment in episode 12 Ghost Stories. And it was a good title. We liked it. But there was one problem, right?
All right, indeed. The fine folks over at Random Chatter are launching their own Rebels review show entitled, you guessed it, Ghost Stories. So, in order not to create confusion, we are just going to stick our off-week Rebels review and our Scoundrel Special Edition episodes. With that, let's get into Holocrons of Fate. And it was just a reminder, as with all of our Rebels reviews, this will be full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, go check it out first. Anyways, here's a summary. Ezra and Kanan arrive at a Rebel transport to discover something wielding a red blade took the ship apart. They conclude it was another Inquisitor.
But it's not an Inquisitor. Darth Maul has returned and abducted the rest of the crew of the Ghost. He demands that Kanan and Ezra bring him the Sith holocron and their Jedi holocron. Or else.
Yeah, and another problem. They have to get the Sith holocron back from the Bendu, which they do, but not before retrieving it from a cave of spiders and coming to an understanding with each other in the process.
They take the holocrons to Maul at an abandoned starbase. Maul separates them and attempts to flush Kanan out of an airlock. I mean, just for old time's sake. However, Kanan manages to get back to the station just in time to prevent Hera, Zeb, and Sabine from being executed by droids.
Meanwhile, Ezra and Maul open the holocrons and try to combine them. The Bendu had warned them not to do this. They would learn secrets that once seen could not be unseen.
Ezra, hoping to learn how to defeat the Sith, is confused by what he sees, and Maul becomes alarmed. Kanan and the others arrive as the holocrons explode. Maul makes his getaway, and the crew of the Ghost recovers.
Mm-hmm. So there you have it. That's the summary of the episode. So Taxis, in about 60 seconds or less, what's your overall impression of this episode?
Okay, so I thought it was really cool bringing back in, of course, Maul. He's a protagonist. The ending was kind of tantalizing. Kind of felt like in the middle, it was sort of like, ooh, how do we keep using this Bendu character? And I don't know. I guess that had some point to it. All in all, I'd give this about a strong A.
Oh, okay. Let's start off with Kanan and Ezra. I like what they did here. There's been an issue between them, and basically the way they disagree on how to use the Force and what they should be doing with the Force in order to defeat the Sith and the Empire. Mm-hmm. And the Bendu senses this conflict, and so he tells them when they show up to get the Sith holocron back that in order to get the holocron, they're going to have to resolve the conflict between them, which is basically repeating what he told Kanan last week, which was in order to help him with his sight, he's going to have to resolve the conflict that he was having. So I don't know. I like what they did in the caves with the two going in and having to find the Sith holocron. At first, it was just going to be Ezra because he could see, and Kanan was going to help guide him using the Force. But then Ezra got a little overwhelmed. Do you think that these two really have come to an understanding, or is it just a bit of a repose between the conflict that they're having? I mean, the Bendu said that their conflict was resolved, but I'm not sure that I'm convinced.
Yeah, I'm not either. Because we still see Ezra, even after he feels like he's resolute and with Kanan, we still see him reacting with anger and passion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially when later Maul's trying to draw them off sides and chide Kanan from him being blind. So now maybe that's just youth. Maybe nobody's perfect, and that's why Kanan's there to try to guide him a little bit more, and he does guide him. But I just feel like still this isn't resolved. I mean, it's a little too. I just still see Ezra going down a darker path, and.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, he gave Kanan a big hug after they got the holocron or before. I think it was after.
Okay.
I don't remember for certain, but they were kind of Kanan was telling him that he didn't blame him for what happened to his eyesight, and Ezra clearly had been carrying that burden for a while. And so at first my impression was that Ezra was giving Kanan this big hug because they kind of resolved something to between the two of them. But the more I think about it, I begin to wonder if it wasn't just that Ezra had been carrying around that burden, and having Kanan tell him that he didn't blame him for what happened kind of took that burden off his shoulders, and that it was more of a hug of relief than it was understanding. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I'm just not. I just don't know. I mean, I guess I haven't really wrapped my head about it. Or you want to think it's just kind of innocent, just kind of like like everything's okay, but. Yeah, I just think everybody, that's kind of what you see on the face of it,
Mm-hmm.
And
right,
it's like, what did I say to Mike Tarkin last night? You ever seen The Godfather?
Right.
There were people kissing in that movie, and it wasn't necessarily a good thing, So I'm not sure if everything's resolved.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between gangsters and the crew of the Ghost. But anyway, moving on. So. While Kanan and Ezra were in the caves, we had Hera, Sabine, and Zeb and Chopper kind of at the mercy of Maul on the Ghost. One thing I'll point out, why didn't Maul disable Chopper? He had the rest of the crew tied up, but Chopper was... did I miss something, or am I not remembering something? Because it seemed like Chopper was just kind of free to tootle around. I mean, granted, Maul had his droids there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure what it was that he was letting Chopper run around free, unrestrained for.
Well, maybe he just trusted the droids to keep him in check, or, boy, that's a good question. Maybe he just felt that it was too beneath him to even worry about.
I suppose. I was thinking, well, maybe do you need to fly the Ghost, or is they're heading back towards Maul's base, or what the case was.
Right.
But anyway.
Oh, that's a good point too. How would he? Yeah, that's a really good point.
Maybe he had to have him engage the hyperdrive and just forgot to restrain him afterwards. I don't know. But anyway, he basically he's got them sitting. They're restrained and they're at the holo chess table, and then he insists that Hera give him a tour of the Ghost. And I guess that was Zeb's and Ezra's room that they arrive at. The door opens, and what does he say? That's an interesting
smell. Yeah.
Right. And then they look at Sabine's room, and he remarks on the art, because Maul had noticed
colorful.
that. It was not just their ship; it was also their home. Mm-hmm. And I guess that really drove home something, so to speak, that Maul just wasn't abducting their ship. This was essentially a home invasion. He was intruding. That's a family. The crew of the Ghost is definitely a family. We've seen them really grow together over the past couple seasons, and it's one. Not only did he abduct some of them and was holding them hostage, he was doing it in their home.
Yeah, there's something kind of very private and, like I said, it's sort of invasive about that. You know, it's like there's no way it can't be personal. You know, being like that. I guess I was just kind of wondering. Yeah, I don't mean to be jumping around, but when they restrained him using the magnetic, idea.
Right. They basically decide to give him. They fight back a little bit before they get back to Maul's base.
I was thinking to myself, well, don't shoot at him.
You know, it's funny you should say that, Taxis. I was watching this episode with my boys last night, and as they were running towards Maul, guns a-blazing, they both started like yelling, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, right. You have him in a good position. Now you're going to ruin it. He could use him. He could block, throw him back at you easily.
Right. Well, we discussed it a bit last night, and we were trying to figure out, well, what exactly would you do if you had him stuck up there on the ceiling? Because you're dealing with a force wielder. If you shoot at him, you run the risk that he's going to reflect the bolts back at you. If you do nothing, you risk that he's just going to use the force against you. Force choking. He picked up Sabine and threw her at Hera. So, what's to say? And I guess his lightsaber wasn't magnetic.
Good point.
Because it didn't get stuck to the ceiling, like his legs did.
Well, mine's aluminum. Real high-grade aluminum.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. It's not, magnetic, but... Well,
you made your lightsaber out of recycled Dr. Pepper cans, so hey.
That's right.
So Ezra and Kanan arrive at Maul's secret base in the asteroid field, which I think was something left over from the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
when they get there, Kanan he separates Ezra and Kanan. The droids take Ezra off one area. I think he may have told them that he was going to see the crew, or he was taking Kanan to see the crew. I can't remember which. But along the way, Maul's escorting Kanan and starts to apologize that, I didn't mean to blind you.
Yeah.
And essentially what it comes down to is, I meant to kill you.
Right.
And then shoves him out the airlock.
That was a cool scene. If at first you don't succeed, and then he just shoves him out. It's just so cold. I mean, well, no pun intended, but wasn't that kind of cool? I genuinely felt I knew he wasn't going to die, but I was thinking to myself, wow, what's going to happen? I was like really, really on the edge of my seat, see how he would survive. And launching yourself through that magnetic field, for the airlock, for the ship bay, that was really cool. I think that's the first time we've seen, is that the first time we've seen like a non-ship kind of person? You know what I mean? Well,
in the last season, there was an episode with Hondo and Ezra, and I think someone went out that magnetic field the opposite way. I don't think they came in.
Oh, right. Okay.
to space. But yeah, I remember them teasing that segment before the season started, and you saw the entire sequence. Maul leading Kanan down the hallway, apologizing that he didn't mean to blind him, he meant to kill him if you don't succeed, yada yada yada, and then shoved him out the air. Then they opened the airlock, but you didn't see Kanan fly out. So I was really surprised when he got flushed out into space.
Yeah.
But that was cool. That he used the Force, managed to drag himself back in, and then got to get the drop on those droids as they were about to execute Hera, Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper.
He's getting very, very adept at not seeing, actually using the Force.
Yeah, and and it helps that he's familiar with the ship, and so but you're right. I do like this aspect. I was a little curious about what they were going to do with this handicap of him being blind, and you do see him frequently taking people's arms to be guided around, but he's not. The blindness is not really holding him back. And it was in the first episode, but now at the second episode, after having learned from the Bendu, he's definitely not letting his handicap hold him back.
Right. One fell swoop, takes off 3 droid heads, then just runs his hand across and all the restraints pop off. Just like he just didn't need eyes. I thought it was really cool. And then he's leading the attack or the rescue, to go get
right.
Which, by the way, those droids, Joey Letson, did you see what he pointed out? What they were?
No.
They're the rickshaw droids. like from Tatooine, those little...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So I wonder where...
It's cool.
Yeah, I wonder where... and I really liked the faces. They all kind of looked deranged. Like they were malfunctioning.
For our listeners, why don't you remind them who Joey is?
Oh, yeah, he's one of our fellow Retro Zappers, and his show is the Animani Cast, if I said that right. Thank you.
Right.
Which is Animaniacs podcast. But yeah, it's a good observation by him. So Kanan. Yeah, Kanan's becoming more and more Kanan-y. And okay, how'd Maul know his name? I was trying to remember his real name.
Yes, because during when he was taking Hera around the Ghost earlier, he said, or his real name, Caleb Doom. So I don't know, because he just met them at the end of season 2 at the Sith Temple on Malachor. I'm not sure that he would have had reason to know that before then. However, perhaps it was a matter of him tracking down Ezra, that he learned out that he was hanging with Kanan, and then maybe he investigated Kanan to learn about Caleb Doom. But I don't think we really got anything that would give us a clear answer as to that.
Maul clearly still has resources. I mean, look at the ship he has, and gotten a relatively short time. I mean, I guess he could have killed whoever and taken it, but.
Well, that's a Mandalorian ship that he was using, and if you recall, again, while they were on the Ghost, head towards his base, when he's kind of lording over them while they're sitting at that holo chess table, he points out to Sabine that he did used to rule her world, and Zeb asks her, "Is that true?" He did. I guess I don't know. Does that mean that this is not a widely known fact around the galaxy that Maul was once the ruler of Mandalore, or was it just kept under wraps so well that it's known that there was an occupation, but it isn't known that a former Sith Lord was at the heart of it? Or I'm not sure what that means. And it didn't really take. It wasn't really that long lasting either, right? No,
because pretty much. Sidious shows up and kind of rectifies everything.
Well, is that true though? Because we know, I do remember the episode of the Clone Wars you're talking about, but we have this unseen Siege of Mandalore that Rex has made reference to, that Ahsoka and Rex fought side by side.
Oh, that's true.
And I'm pretty sure the inference was that Maul was still on Mandalore at that time. So I don't know. Maybe Palpatine, Sidious, once he defeated Maul, left him there, for that express purpose of kind of distracting the Jedi.
I'm hoping we're going to learn more about that then. I'm hoping we learn more about it in conjunction with the Darksaber.
And hoping we get more about that. And I'm sure some of the people listening to this have already got their hands on one of those trade copies of Ahsoka and know the answer to this, but I'm hoping it's some of that's revealed there as well.
Yes.
Okay, so we got one last major part of this episode, and that is the Holocrons. Hence the title, Holocrons of Fate. And Maul had demanded that Ezra and Kanan bring both the Sith and the Jedi holocrons to him in exchange for the lives of the crew of the Ghost. And then the Bendu warned them that what Maul wants to do is combine those two holocrons, and by doing so, you'll be able to learn any secret you want. He advises against it because you may learn some things that you may not want to know, and once you know one of these secrets, you can't unlearn it.
Like what's in a hot dog?
Yeah, that would just, that's better left unsaid. So Ezra and Maul, and it's still interesting that Maul continues to refer to Ezra as his apprentice.
Oh, yeah.
Sit down to open the holocrons. As they're doing so, I love this bit. Maul asks Ezra what he's hoping to see, and Ezra says, "You know what I want. It's what I've always wanted. I want to learn how to destroy the Sith." And then Ezra throws it back at Maul. "What is it you want to see? Or what is it you're hoping for?" And Maul replies with a single word: hope. And the delivery of that line by Sam Witwer was beautiful. It was just it was a single word, but it was a great piece of acting.
I want you to remember that word hope, because after we talk a little bit more about joining the Holocrons into basically a Force Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, and what they see, we're going to come back and talk about that term.
Yeah, very quickly, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So Ezra opens the Jedi holocron, Maul opens the Sith holocron, they fuse them together, I guess, through the Force, or they mix the parts, and you start seeing a purple light, and they're looking into it and attempting to see things. All Maul is seeing is oblivion at first, and then Ezra is starting to see something. And now, okay, why don't you tell us, Taxes, what is it that Ezra sees?
Well, okay, let's say what he tells Kanan and everybody else is he saw planets, and some of them he knew, some of them he didn't know. But when he was at the height of the joining and everything was happening, he saw 2 suns.
I think he even called them twin suns.
Twin suns. Okay, yeah, twin suns. So, yeah, of course. What's the inference with twin suns? I mean, for what
Tatooine.
we know, Tatooine. Now I know there's other binary star systems, I'm sure, but
really only one of any relevance in Star Wars,
and one that at least Maul recognized. Of course, because he was on Tatooine. So
yeah. Well, let's hold back Maul's reaction for just a second.
Okay.
Again, remembering what they both said that they wanted. Maul said he wanted to hope, and Ezra said that he wanted to know how to destroy the Sith.
Did he say he wanted to hope or wanted hope?
He's looking for hope.
Okay. There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
And Ezra was looking for how to destroy the Sith, and part of his vision is he sees the twin suns. So that's beautiful. We've always had this notion that that Luke was the last hope in order to defeat the Sith. And there's been some confusion with the introduction of Kanan and Ezra that there's 2 more Jedi now running around the galaxy, so they must not survive A New Hope, or into A New Hope, or the events of A New Hope, or Empire Strikes Back, because something had happened to Luke. Yoda knows about them. They would have been available to destroy Darth Vader. I think this is a great statement of saying something that I've said in the past, which is not just any Jedi could defeat Darth Vader. It had to be Luke. It had to be another Skywalker. It had to be someone that could redeem Anakin.
Right.
And I think Ezra's statements here after seeing that vision go a long way towards supporting that.
Yeah. I think you're right. And even Maul, I mean, saying you're looking for hope, you found literally a new hope, right?
Right.
I mean, maybe they saw Luke Skywalker too. Maybe they did. And of course,
what is it that Maul saw, do you think? Because he's running out of that room saying he's still alive. He's still alive.
Yeah. And obviously, I think he's talking about Kenobi.
Absolutely.
So
I don't think it could be anybody else. I mean, that has got to be the single biggest nightmare for him. It was the man who sliced him in half back in the day. It was the man who thwarted him to some degree, a bit on Mandalore, although it was others that were key there. And I kind of think, given this reaction, that Maul either was thinking one of 2 things. One, he had some ease knowing that this man who had bested him all those years ago was dead, or 2, now he really has an opportunity for revenge, and perhaps that is what he's been hoping for.
Well, and we know that when he finally came out of his psychoses, the focus wasn't the focus on Obi-Wan. That's kind of what helped bring him back.
That's correct.
And so, yeah, definitely Obi-Wan's got some significant, besides changing the way you use the toilet for the rest of your life, he's got problems. With him. So it's...
why taxes?
Well, yeah, we don't know how that works with them. Yeah. So I think it's going to be fascinating. We were all wondering, well, okay, so is Obi-Wan going to be in this next season? And I know you and I were kind of like, if he is, well, sparingly, you know.
Hey, but you know what? It's, you know, maybe he is, maybe he's not. And, you know, but now there's the opportunity to have that showdown somewhere. It could be in another animated show. It could be somewhere in this season. You know, I think this is, you know, when James Arnold Taylor had been asked, and we talked about this in a news segment on our show not too long ago about whether Obi-Wan would appear in Rebels, you know, he kind of said, if he does, it needs to be for a good reason. It needs to be, it just can't be that their paths happen to cross and for whatever purpose. This would be a pretty good reason, at least to get Maul there on that planet. I don't, you know, perhaps the Rebels, the rest of the crew of the Ghost has some reason to chase him there.
Right.
But at any rate, you know, that would be a way of getting Kenobi into the show.
So here we go with speculation. Okay. So imagine that Maul decides to find the thing that Obi-Wan cares most about in order to destroy Obi-Wan, right? And so who would that be? You know, possibly Luke, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm saying. Maybe he saw more of that whole hope thing. You know, it kind of it's a little more threatening to me than just a passing word. You know, it's like maybe he's seeing this grander plan of revenge, of killing, and also revenge. I guess I don't know how he feels about Vader. Does he even know who Vader is? I mean, you know.
No, he wouldn't. He really wouldn't have a reason to know that. Yeah. Well, one last thing I'll point out. There was an old Dark Horse comic, I think Tales or Infinities, in which there, you know, it's an Infinity story that it was not officially part of the timeline, is my understanding, where a half, you know, cyborg Maul shows up on Tatooine and gets to the Lars homestead and starts to hold them hostage until Kenobi emerges. They have a duel, and so spoilers about this, you know, you can go find the comic yourself. I'm not sure which issue it was, but Kenobi emerges, basically defeats Maul, and at Saber Point is trying to decide what to do when Owen takes matters into his hands and off Small. So I don't know. Maybe they'll be borrowing that. That's some of the legends they'll be bringing into the show, but we'll see. Yeah. All right. Well, you know, I think that'll do it for our review of Holocrons of Fate.
Oh, were those holocrons destroyed too?
Just that's a good question. I'm not sure. It looked like they blew up at the end, but then in the next scene, they weren't even on the ground any longer. So I don't know what happened to them.
Some quick hits, real quick. Things I loved about this: the R2 unit we see on the ship in the beginning has the see-through dome. That was a nice touch. Still wondering about the Bendu. Is that really his name, or is that maybe he's part of an order called Bendu? You know. Let's see. Bendu gives the warning: with great power comes great responsibility, basically. You know. The two-seater, I'm going to call it the A+ wing. Okay. And I thought the part where Kanan could see Ezra, that was pretty good. I thought that was really neat how he could kind of see him. And I was wondering, okay, is he seeing through the Force, or is the light so bright that he's able to actually look into it because he's blind, you know? But nonetheless, I thought the art and the effects on that were great, you know? So yeah, it's a pretty solid episode.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you know, I'm going to have to give it an A-, simply because it was a great story. I enjoyed it a lot. I think a lot of my enjoyment on the episode depended on the ending, with the reveal of the holocrons, and just our discussion about it. Kind of, you know, well, you know, why were you letting Chopper run free, and you know, why wasn't the lightsaber magnetized to the roof? I'm sure the story group has got a good explanation for all that, but just wasn't apparent from having watched the episode. So. Right.
Plus, we overanalyze the heck out of things.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, Scoundrels, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. As always, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find me on Twitter at DJKVER2. Darth Taxis is at Darth Taxis. The show's Twitter account is at SCubedPod. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/SCubedPod. Our email address is, you guessed it, SCubedPod@retrozap.com. Any final thoughts, Taxis?
Nope, just looking forward to a next episode of Rebels and our discussion.
Yep, and you can find that on episode 13, and then we will likely be doing the episode after that on another Scoundrel Special Edition.
That's right.
So with that, thanks for listening, Scoundrels, and may the Force be with you.